I get it. You're staring at a dozen camera options and wondering if any of them will actually let you shoot the kind of video you've imagined without spending a fortune on gear you'll end up shelving. You've probably seen a few flashy ads promising AI-powered tracking and cinematic 4K, and you're right to question whether those buzzwords translate into real-world value for your setup. If you've ever tried to line up a shot with a handheld cam and ended up with shaky footage, or spent an hour tweaking focus while your subject moved out of frame, you know the frustration. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. The OBSBOT Tail 2 tries to answer those exact pain points. It's a compact camera that folds a 3-axis PTZR gimbal into the body, meaning the sensor stays level even when you're walking around a room or following a pet that darts across the floor. The biggest selling point is the AI Tracking 2.0 system. You set a target, whether it's a person, a dog, or even a rolling ball, and the camera locks onto it, adjusting pan, tilt and zoom automatically. For someone who wants to stream a cooking show from a kitchen or capture a home workout without a dedicated cameraman, that hands-free tracking can feel like a game changer. Let's break down how that plays out in everyday use. I tested the Tail 2 while recording a live cooking segment. I placed the camera on a tripod, switched to portrait mode for an Instagram-style vertical feed, and tapped the track person button. As I moved from the stove to the prep table, the camera smoothly followed, keeping my face centered and the background in focus. The switch between portrait and landscape is truly one click, which is a relief when you're juggling a recipe and a phone timer. For vloggers who switch between selfie shots and wide-angle kitchen shots, that fluid transition eliminates the need to remount or reframe manually. The 4K 60 FPS video looks crisp, and the 12x hybrid zoom, 5 optical plus 12 digital, gives you some flexibility when you need a closer look at a detail without moving the whole rig. I used the 5 optical zoom to capture a close-up of a garnish being sprinkled, and the image stayed sharp without the jitter you sometimes get from digital zoom alone. The hybrid approach works best when you stay within the optical range. Once you push into the digital stretch, you'll notice a softening that's typical for a sensor of this size. If you need extreme zoom for sports or wildlife, you'll quickly outgrow what a built-in lens can deliver. Low light performance is another common concern, especially for creators who stream in a dimly lit living room or a bedroom with only a lamp. The 1/1.5-inch CMOS sensor does a decent job up to about 200 lux. You'll see some noise if you drop below that without adding extra lighting. In practice, I found that a simple ring light or a couple of LED panels made the footage look clean, but the camera isn't a miracle worker for candlelit ambience. If you plan to film in very dark environments without supplemental light, you might want to consider a camera with a larger sensor or dedicated low light modes. Battery life is realistic for a device packed with a gimbal and AI processors. The internal battery gives roughly 2 hours of continuous recording at 4K 60 FPS before you need to swap the power bank or plug into USB-C. For a short Talks House segment or a quick product demo, that's plenty, but for a full-day conference stream you'll have to budget for external power. The camera does have a power-saving mode that cuts down on AI tracking when you're idle, which can stretch the runtime a bit if you're not constantly moving. On the software side, OBSBOT provides a cross-platform control app that runs on Windows, Mac OS, iOS, and Android. The app lets you fine-tune the tracking sensitivity, set up custom zones for when the camera should ignore background movement, and switch between portrait and landscape without touching the camera itself. The interface is fairly intuitive after a short learning curve, but the first time you open it you might feel a little overwhelmed by the number of sliders and toggles. Once you settle on your preferred settings, the app becomes a handy remote that eliminates the need to climb behind the camera for adjustments. One practical limitation is the lack of interchangeable lenses. The built-in 1/1.5-inch lens covers a useful focal range for most vloggers, but if you're a professional filmmaker who relies on specific glass for depth-of-field control, the Tail 2 won't replace your cinema rig. That said, the fixed lens keeps the unit lightweight and portable, which aligns with the product's target audience. So, who should actually consider buying the OBSBOT Tail 2? If you're a beginner or hobbyist who wants a single device that can both stream and record in 4K, and you value automated tracking over manual operation, this camera hits a sweet spot. Content creators who do live tutorials, cooking shows, fitness classes, or pet videos will appreciate the hands-free focus and the quick portrait landscape toggle. Small business owners doing product demos,